The CNN talking heads strike again. They just don't know when to quit. They can't help themselves. They are addicted to the fear. They are addicted to the fake news. They are addicted to the narrative, but good on them for at least being loyal to their overlord. They will not let anybody move them off of their mission to pump more fear and division into the country. And this time, little Brian Stelter, or maybe I should call him Big Brian, he's actually looking larger than I've ever seen him before. But Brian Stelter and this lovely young CNN woman are concerned that Trump's Truth Social app just launched, and it might take away a little bit more of their market share, and we just can't have that. So Brian Stelter, of course, is calling it a war on truth. Let's see what else they have to say about Trump's brand new social media platform.
Well, earlier this morning, former President Trump launched his new social media platform. It's a response to sites like Facebook and Twitter, which suspended Trump after the January 6th insurrection. Here with me.
Okay, so first of all, that wasn't an insurrection, because if it were, then he would probably still be president, but I'm splitting hairs here, and I'll continue.
Now is CNN senior media correspondent Brian Stelter.
Brian, you gotta cool it. The smile looks weird. You are looking like you've packed on a ton of pounds, and you gotta let the cul-de-sac go, bro. You were bald. It's okay. Get rid of it. It looks silly. It looks like Peter Griffin and Homer Simpson literally just had a baby, bro. Let it go. It's not working for you.
Brian, we're already hearing about some issues that users are having downloading this app. Tell us about it.
That's right. I think this is another chapter in the war on truth. So we're seeing Truth Social, but there's something Orwellian about the language around this where...
Okay, so let's just take note of that. Brian Stelter is calling Truth Social Orwellian. The head, or I don't know if he's the head or whatever, this CNN, the face of CNN now that Cuomo's gone and Zucker's gone, little Humpty Dumpty here is by default the face of CNN. And he is saying that Truth Social is very Orwellian. Meanwhile, these people that tell you to follow the science, get 4, 5, 6 shots, the trans women are women, they are telling you that the mislabeling of things is Orwellian. So think about that for a second. Like, how meta can we actually get?
A post on the site is called a truth, and it's coming from a brand, Donald Trump, that is known for dishonesty.
Okay, a brand, Donald Trump, known for dishonesty. That's actually not true. He's known for being truthful to a fault, almost the exact opposite of CNN, who have been caught in lie after lie after lie. You can probably ask Nick Sandman about that.
The app did officially launch this morning. It has been in development for months. They've already missed some deadlines. So now it's actually up in the App Store. People can try to download it, try to sign up. But already users are saying they're having a hard time actually getting on it. Now there's a wait list. And Devin Nunes, who you remember left Congress in order to run this social media company for Trump, he says the site will be fully operational by the end of March. So this is going to be a slow rollout by Trump and his allies, trying to create maybe a conservative version of Twitter. And I think
okay, a conservative version of Twitter, fair enough. It doesn't really need to be that though, because Twitter has gone so far off the rails that you can't say certain words if you are, or if they believe you are of a certain political persuasion. And obviously, nobody from Twitter, no libs on Twitter are going to hop over to Truth Social. So I will say that this is going to be nothing more than an echo chamber at its very best, but it's hilarious to watch them squirm because they just can't stand Trump so much. He is not president anymore. He is simply living rent-free in their heads while Brian Stelter is packing on the pounds. And you can see the people in the background of this CNN newsroom wearing a mask because we also just heard that the 4th shot is certainly inevitable. Otherwise, you will die.
I think it's a real test for Trump about how much market power he has, how much influence he still has, and whether his voice will be as loud when he's on his own site and not someone else's.
Well, remember, he would brag to anyone who would listen as to how many millions of Twitter followers he had. Now that's not something that he can do anymore. Who is this target audience? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, these people are just dragging on and on and on about, this is literally them just saying, well, we don't like Trump and Trump has done something. So, of course, we're going to talk about how awful it is and how it's a war on truth. And they are just pathetic. There's really no other way to put it. These people have clearly lost the war. They are part of this huge Democratic machine, so they're not going anywhere. But this CNN as a news outlet is done. They're over. We saw Zucker, we saw Cuomo, we saw all of that collapse. And I can almost guarantee that that's not going to be the end of it.
I think that's a really
interesting. They're reaching out to.
That's really an interesting question. How many supporters of Donald Trump or...
I'm sorry, and by the way, Brian Stelter, not to turn this into a personal thing, but bro, you look absolutely awful. It's like something sort of weighing on you.
MAGA-aligned figures are going to sign up for this, and how many are going to populate this with content? Because ultimately, social networking sites are about content, whether you're on Facebook or TikTok or Twitter or some of the conservative clones that have already popped up trying to appeal to the Trump base. I see this going one of two ways. This may end up being another example of two Americas splintering away from one another. There's a liberal Twitter and a conservative Truth Social, and it may just be another example of.
Okay, so he's right about that. He's not very far off base. But I must say that the splitting of the country is basically due to people like Brian Stelter and CNN, of course, Hillary Clinton, Mad Max Waters, all these people who claim nothing more than that we shouldn't make things political, like Stacey Abrams just the other week said, we shouldn't make this political. Well, obviously, that's the number one reason that you know that the Democratic Party, 9 times out of 10, has already made this political. But to his point, this is just going to be a parallel economy. Nobody from Twitter, no libs of Twitter are going to hop over to Truth Social and start conversating with Trump supporters. It's just not going to happen because they've been trained so well by the media for the past decade or so, give or take, to not even talk to anybody who has a separate opinion or who may have ever worn a red hat at one point in their life.
This country being pulled further apart. Then again, what made Trump work on Twitter? Why was he electric on Twitter? Because he was trolling. He would get a raucous response. Liberals would be yelling at him and conservatives would be dunking on the liberals. And he had this ability to kind of fight among everyone. And if you take away the other side, so to speak, if you're only speaking to one tribe, if you're in a conservative bubble of like-minded posts, I'm not so sure that still works or that still applies.
Right.
It's a different dynamic when you're just talking to people who agree with you. There's no trolling anymore. There's no so-called owning the libs. So I'm really curious to see if this actually works for Trump or if it's going to fall flat.
Yeah, because people who oppose him or disagree with him would really have to do an extra bit of legwork here to go find it.
I don't see them signing up.
Exactly.
I don't see them signing up, and that's going to be the test.
Okay, well, I think on second thought, people might sign up for this just to be left-wing trolls. That's absolutely possible. But I also think that we've come to this because people can't voice very middle-of-the-road opinions that just don't line up with the weirdo left-wing dogma of like up is down, left is right, and everything's backwards. If you say that a man is going to be faster at swimming than a woman, then you will basically get kicked off Twitter or YouTube. So I can't wait for that day to come for me. But the point is, they have been forced to do this, right? We have heard over and over again, well, if you don't like it, it's a private business, you can go ahead and start your own. And then people start their own, and then they get the App Store to shut them down, and so on and so forth. So they don't actually want you to start your own, and this is proof of that. All they want you to do is obey every single thing that they tell you to.